What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Today on the program, something a little bit different on the What Makes You Famous podcast. I debated on whether to make it a What Makes You Smarter podcast. Those are the podcasts that I do when I'm by myself and I want to learn something. Typically, I read a Wikipedia page and become an expert. But I decided to put this under the moniker of What Makes You Famous because I did have other voices besides myself. Big thanks to Jerry Epps, Jack Meadows, Bobby Haynes, Delores Haynes, and of course my lovely wife, Raschel Gilson. Today on the program, I visited with my family the Jacksonville Museum of Military History in Jacksonville, Arkansas. And I took a little tour. Had some voices. Jerry Epps helped me through, Jack Meadows, and then I had some anecdotes from Bobby Haynes, Delores Haynes, and Raschel Gilson. And Raschel, special thanks. She took some pictures for me, so I added them to the video version. So this is not a typical What Makes You Famous. It is, it could be grim at times, because I wish there was no war, and I'm sure, I'm sure that you do as well. And I can be very general with that. There are very few people that that possibly could even want war. Profiteers, maybe? Possibly. But I'll try to stay as apolitical as possible. And just, it's going to be mostly audio, but there'll be a pictorial kind of a walkthrough. If you're watching the video version of this, if you're listening to the audio, I'll do my best to describe the museum and all its parts as I walk through the Jacksonville Museum of Military History. This week's shows, let's see, Friday night, I'm usually at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. Well, this Friday night, I have All About Entertainment covering the Rab for me. I will be at a middle school dance. Very excited about that. This is the second or third year that I've done a dance at this particular middle school. I'm not going to tell you which middle school. I don't want you showing up, you creeps. But yeah, I have a middle school dance. I'm so stoked on Friday night. And then Saturdays, always saved for weddings and parties. Yeah, I do have some Saturdays available. So if you would like to schedule your event in the central Arkansas area, or even beyond, if the price is right, have equipment will travel. You can give me a call, 501-470-6386, or better yet, you can visit my website, DJLittleRock.com. Yeah. All right, let's get into it with the people, the fine people of Jacksonville Museum of Military History. Let's go do that now. Hey, what's up? We're just hanging out here with Jerry Epps over at the Military Museum in Jacksonville. Tell me, Jerry Epps, thank you for the invitation, by the way. What do you do here at the Military Museum?
Well, I'm a volunteer. Every museum relies on volunteers, obviously, and I welcome people in the door and point out some of our interesting artifacts and try and make sure everybody has a good time while they're here.
So you're standing at the front desk, and we're about to go in. There'll be photos if you're watching the video version of this. If you're listening to the audio version, I'm going to do my best to try to explain what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing. But it'd be probably best to go to the YouTube and check out the video version, because the wife is going to be taking pictures, and I'm going to put them up as a photo essay of what's going on at the Military Museum. I'm kind of excited. There's a lot to see here. They got a gift shop at the front door. Hey, I guess that's typical. Probably buy some gifts on
on the way out the door. But Jerry Epps, you coming around with us, or are you stuck at the front?
I will walk around with you and try and add a little context to some things, hopefully.
Fantastic. I got a tour guide. I thought I was just going to be walking around looking at things. Well, let me wait for the wife to come in, and we'll get this thing going. Hey, let me at least mention the wife, Raschel. She's taking photos for this. We're just getting into the foyer of the Military Museum, and it looks like there's a tour already underway.
Can we take photos?
Yes, but no flash, obviously. This is our Vietnam Memorial exhibit. Everyone from Arkansas who went to Vietnam and didn't come home is represented by a dog tag. So every dog tag is a person from Arkansas who went to Vietnam and did not make it home.
Are these the actual dog tags that they were wearing, or the replicas?
These are all replicas, and all their names are on the map here.
Do you know how many offhand where there were? This is quite impressive. There's a plaque here from Arkansas to the silver fields of Vietnam. About this exhibit, this memorial features a dog tag imprinted with the name, hometown, and branch of service for every Arkansan killed in action in the Vietnam War, as listed on the National Vietnam War Memorial, the wall in Washington, D.C. The map on the wall shows the corresponding location for each dog tag on the overhead panel. Does not mention how, is that representing over 56,000 men? Okay, this is, they're mentioning the memorial. Yeah, I guess if we did some math. All right, Jerry did the math, and what did you come up with?
Around 600.
600. All men?
All men from Arkansas that went to Vietnam and didn't make it home.
There were no lady fighters back then, for all you kids out there. My wife is currently laying on the ground so she can get this shot of the dog tags from below. And Jerry had an interesting anecdote from Vietnam.
Well, not Vietnam, North Korea.
North Korea.
A tourist was there taking pictures, and to try and get a picture of the entire statue of Kim Jong-un, he laid on the ground to be able to get the whole statue in frame, and they thought he was making fun of the statue, so they arrested him.
It's nice to be living in America, isn't it? Well, if you hear any other voices, my father-in-law Bobby's in this, and my mother-in-law Delores is in there, and we're just getting out of the foyer and walking through. We're in a spot with Eberts Field, Lone Oak, Arkansas. Wife will take some pictures. There's a plaque commemorating World War I. This war to end all wars started with the assassination of Austrian Archduke Francis Ferdinand and his wife Sophie on June 28th, 1914 in Sarajevo, the capital of Austrian province of Bosnia. I think I've heard that story many times, and how it was botched at first, but through many fumbles, the Austrian Archduke and his wife were assassinated. Continue on the plaque, Austria-Hungary suspected Serbia of being involved in the assassination and declared war on it in July 24th, 1914. And there's a lot more. And if you read the photo will be taken of the World War I plaque and the Eberts Field, Lone Oak, Arkansas. Thanks to Raschel, my lovely wife and photographer. All right, continuing on. I have Jerry Epps still giving me the tour. Look at this. I think we're in the Civil War area, 1861 to 1865. What can you tell me about this?
Well, let me show you this item right here. This is called a McClellan saddle. During the Civil War, there was a shortage of big, strong horses for the cavalry to ride. And General McClellan came up with this saddle design where there is no center in the saddle, so the horse's backbone would be right here in the middle, so the saddle wouldn't hurt the skinny horses that many of the cavalry had to ride. So this greatly increased the number of usable horses in the Civil War for cavalry. Arkansas in the Civil War. Yeah. So like Reed's Bridge, this is right here in Jacksonville, where the Union Army was trying to find a way into Little Rock, and the Confederates stopped the Union Army at the Battle of Reed's Bridge. The other exhibits in here, they focus on Arkansas and the Civil War.
I got Reed's Bridge attack and repulse, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Very short battle, August 27th. What is that, 1861? It doesn't have the year. 1863, excuse me.
Pea Ridge is the really the only major Civil War engagement in Arkansas, as I understand it. And there's a Civil War battlefield and museum up at Pea Ridge that you can go visit sometime.
I'm looking at Pea Ridge or Elkhorn Tavern, March 7th and 8th, 1862. There's a uniform represented. There's some binoculars. Pretty neat. What is that, a musket ball, or what kind of a ball is that?
I would think it's a small cannonball.
Cannonball. Yeah, I guess I couldn't fit that into a rifle, but that's it's about the size of maybe a little bit bigger than a golf ball, possibly. Yeah, something like that. A little bit bigger than a golf ball, black. Once again, if you're listening to the audio version of this, check out the video on the YouTube page. Let's look up, what is the official name of this place?
Jacksonville Museum of Military History.
I think that's what I'm going to name it. Looking on, I have Vicksburg Key to the Trans-Mississippi. The reduction of river fortresses like Island Number 10 and the occupation of New Orleans, Memphis, and Helena made the Mississippi a mostly federal river by the spring of 1862. Amphibious operations with the river fleet of Admiral Farragut had taken Baton Rouge and Natchez. He met the river ram fleet coming down from Memphis in front of Vicksburg on May 18th, 1862.
Caught Jerry Epps talking to the wife.
That we're in was built in 1945. The Arkansas Ordnance Plant, which took up the footprint of the Air Force Base during World War II, where this building is where the administration building was for the Ordnance Plant. That building burned in 45, and then they built this in the same spot.
Era of the history, or is it just all like fascinating to you? Because you were saying your dad is like the Civil War.
My father-in-law is a Civil War expert. He was in the Navy. He was in P-2V Neptunes during the Cold War, so he was hunting Russian submarines during the Cold War.
Oh my goodness.
So, but when my 10th birthday, my dad took me to Battleship Memorial Park in Mobile. So my entire 10th birthday was spent running around on a battleship and submarine. And that kind of is where my history nerd is. Yeah, that's why I became a history nerd. This is my 10th birthday.
Excellent.
So answer your question, World War II, definitely. Because, growing up, they still had tons of World War II based theme TV shows, movies, and then spending my weekends on the battleship for running around. But my interest in history grew out of that. So Civil War was always kind of meh.
Yeah.
Jerry Epps explains the reason for the location.
Well, this is why the museum is here, is because the ordnance plant was here. This building, like I said, was where the admin building was, and that's why they chose this building to build the museum. And this area here talks about the ordnance plant. Every bomb a American bomber dropped out of a plane has a detonator on it, and nearly all of them were made here at the Arkansas Ordnance Plant in Jacksonville.
War, promoting jobs.
World War II is what got women into the workforce in a big way. All the men were overseas fighting, and it was a total war. The whole country, all the car plants stopped making cars and started making planes and tanks and bombs and guns and bullets. To meet the production needs, they needed every available body. Women, blacks had been largely not allowed in the industrial workforce, and that had to change during World War II because there just weren't enough bodies to make everything that was needed.
Yeah, I'm in the next room, and there's a famous picture of Rosie the Riveter up here. Soldiers without guns. That's a pretty famous poster, but none more famous than the Rosie the Riveter with her polka dot kerchief, making her arm guns, the muscles, War Production Coordinating Committee. We can do it. And there's pictures of women that served in non-combat in the war. Fascinating room.
That's the original building that was in this spot.
The AOP Administration Building, 1941 to 1945. And there's an article from the Arkansas Democrat.
If you look at this aerial photo, you can see the circle out front, which is the circle out front now where the bell tower is. So you can see this is exactly where the the original building was. A snapshot of war production here.
National war production. Yeah, you can read that.
Some historians believe that war production was the real key to Allied victory in World War II. The Allies outproduced the Axis. Existing industry converted to war production and new war plants were built rapidly. The USA alone produced 296,429 airplanes, 86,333 tanks, 11,900 ships.
And that's sourced by the World Book Encyclopedia. Yeah, encyclopedias. I grew up with those. Had a whole set of them. Enjoyed them a lot.
These are examples of the detonators that were produced here.
These are boxes of oh, the detonators on. Oh, I see.
These would have been crates. These would have been crates full of detonators. You added those to the bombs right before they took off, so you didn't want them blowing up on the ground.
It looked like the warhead part. Typical if you're watching your movies, you'll see the caps screwed on to the bullets. My man Jerry Epps working hard. He had to answer the front door, but I have the lovely wife still taking pictures. A U.S. Navy, Women's Navy wave uniform. There's a bust of the gal is a WOW, women ordnance worker. Hey, read that part.
Sculptor John Deering designed and made this clay model of a woman ordnance worker, or a WOW, in 2001 in honor of his mother that worked at the Arkansas Ordnance Plant. John Deering, a lifelong Arkansan, attended the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, where he studied fine art. In 1981, he began work for the Arkansas Democrat, now the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, where he became a regular cartoon contributor to the Voices page and was eventually promoted to the Democrat's chief editorial cartoonist. John's political cartoons have been featured in Time, Newsweek, and the Sunday New York Times, and have been shown on the NBC Nightly News, ABC, and C-SPAN. John has won several national awards for political cartooning, including the Fischetti Award given by Columbia College, Chicago, and the Berryman Award from the National Press Foundation. In addition to his editorial cartoons, Creators Syndicate also distributes his two comic features, Strange Brew and Zach Hill. A professional sculptor as well, John has completed 3 monuments for the state of Arkansas, which are on permanent display on the grounds of the state capitol in Little Rock. John's work is in other public and private collections in Arkansas and around the U.S.
Joined with 2 clay sculptures, 1 bust of a woman, and then 1 full-bodied sculpture of a woman holding a lunchbox. Just behind that, there's the Arkansas Ordnance Plant. I guess this is where what Jerry was talking about, 1941 and 1945. This exhibit is dedicated to the memory of our friend Ben Rice, 1937 to 2013. His dedication and drive helped open the doors of this museum. And there's a Latin quote, Dimidium facti qui copit habit. There's no translation of that, but I think I'm going to try to find that out later. Could not find it anywhere. Stepping into the next room, there's a lot of uniforms representing all the branches of the military, Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and the Coast Guard. There's a sign featured, there's a few weapons, and there's a sign featured, the guns in this museum have been demilitarized. They don't work. There's a 9mm Sten Mark III machine carbine, a Suomi M44 manufactured in Finland. It's got a shoulder rest that kind of flips around. Interesting weapons. Oh, Jerry's back, his front door duties.
Private donations, or does the museum itself go and buy from different things, or?
Pretty much everything in the museum was either donated or loaned to the museum. So some of the collections, sometimes, regardless of whether they're donated or loaned, sometimes the person who provided them wants them kept together. This case right here has something I've never seen at any other museum, and I've been to many museums. This is a Christmas card sent by Adolf Hitler, and there's Adolf Hitler's signature on that. So there you have it. Even mass murderers send out Christmas cards, or just because you got a Christmas card from someone doesn't mean they're necessarily a good person.
Do I have to say allegedly on that one?
I didn't acquire the card.
No, I'd say mass murderers allegedly.
I don't think you have to say allegedly on that one.
No. This is amazing.
A lot of the things in this case are extremely rare, especially because there just weren't that many of them made to begin with. Mm-hmm. This cross here was given to German women who provided, this says 8, but I was told it's actually 5. If a German woman had 5 sons in the German army, she would get that cross. Either way, there just weren't that many people who had 5 or 8 sons in the German army. So again, a very rare item, and I'm told a lot of the items in this case are extremely rare, and they're from the Lloyd Ackland collection.
Would they have to have hidden these, after they were coming away from being in Germany, were they allowed to bring these things, or were they kind of frowned upon of taking anything out of Germany?
Well, I'm not a veteran, so I have to go by what I'm told. In the Iraq Gulf Wars, bringing home souvenirs is very frowned upon, but during World War II, not so much. Lots of people brought home, I believe most of the German items here were brought home by American soldiers who served in World War II.
Well, you mentioned earlier the blacks, the African Americans, and there's plaques and pictures dedicated to the Tuskegee Airmen. The consequences during World War II, African Americans were initially excluded from combat and generally performed service, in quotation marks, duties. However, attitudes changed due to the exemplary performance of the Tuskegee P-51 fighter pilots and crews as performance of as escorts for American bomber planes. The loss of American bombers over Germany was staggering, but the Tuskegee Redtails did not lose a single bomber under their care.
During World War II, more than 1 million black servicemen and women served in segregated or separate units. While many were assigned to service or support units, each branch had some segregated combat units. The excellent performance of these units helped lead to the desegregation of the military by President Truman in 1948. Here are some of the units that, to me, this is the real reason we need Black History Month, because I love history. I've studied history most of my life. I had never heard that there were 2 U.S. Navy ships with almost all black crews, the USS Mason, a destroyer escort, and the USS PC-1264, a submarine chaser. There were black Marines. Most people have heard of the Tuskegee Airmen, the black fighter pilot units, but there was a black paratrooper unit, the Triple Nickel, and while they didn't serve in combat, ironically, you've heard of the Chinese balloon thing now, but during World War II, Japan launched thousands of balloon bombs at the United States, and they were designed to drop incendiary bombs and set the U.S. forests on fire. Well, the government suppressed all reporting of that, and the Triple Nickel parachutes people, they went out and fought the forest fires and prevented them from spreading. They were the first units to parachute in to fight forest fires. So black paratroopers are why we have the term smoke jumpers today.
I need to do a whole podcast on the segregated units of World War II.
Let me mention this right here, the 6888 Battalion. It was the only female black battalion to serve overseas during World War II. Troops were constantly moving, getting transferred from unit to unit, so the mail was a disaster. The 6888 went over to England and straightened out the mess that was the mail. They succeeded in fixing the or eliminating the backlog of mail service in World War II.
I like the colloquialisms. The Triple Nickel is the 555, and what did you call it? 6888?
Yes.
It's fantastic. 6888 Battalion, the Women's Army Corps.
Is there a lot of information out there available for people to learn more about this, or is it not really out there?
It is out there. I learned about a lot of this by accident when I was trying to research the Tuskegee Airmen to learn more about them. If you search black segregated units of World War II, there's like a 30 or 45-minute YouTube video that actually covers a lot of these. And that's kind of what got me started. And there are books about individual units available. But it's, again, you have to go looking for it, which to me is the whole point of Black History Month. Is there's a lot of history that we should all know and we just don't know, because for many decades it was actively suppressed. Same with Women's History Month. Contributions and sacrifices of women were ignored, suppressed for many decades. Now it's out there. I think maybe they cover it more in school today, but all of us who have already out of school, we don't know about it.
Continuing on into the next room, we got a big picture of the Arkansas Gazette Extra. June 6th, 1944, Little Rock, Arkansas, Tuesday. Allies land in France. This is the famous D-Day, how it was reported in the Arkansas Gazette. D-Day anniversary on the tableau in front of you represents the fictitious meeting on Omaha Beach in Normandy, France, between a paratrooper of the 101st Airborne Division and a soldier of the U.S. 1st Division. The paratroops had been dropped behind the invasion beaches as much as 6 hours before the infantry came ashore. The beach obstacle to the right was called a hedgehog, that big iron thing that you've seen in many war movies that kind of prevent people from going on, that's wrapped in barbed wire, and was placed by the Germans at the high water marks to impede or destroy landing craft. The photos to the left and right are images taken during the invasion, and the image on the back wall is a mock-up of a typical extra newspaper edition issued in the U.S. reporting on the long-awaited return of Allies to Europe. On the wall behind you are images and biographies of 7 Arkansans in action on D-Day. 5 of these soldiers did not survive that day. Some famous photos. There's a poster, "United we are strong, united we will win." And it's many weapons wrapped in the flags of the Allied forces that are aiming into the air. And there's a Tuskegee Airman in another poster, "Keep us flying, buy war bonds." There's a soldier kind of heading into action with his rifle and bayonet attached. All soldiers can't be in the infantry, but soldiers in the United States between the ages of 18 and 32 may apply for transfer to the infantry. This privilege is provided by War Department Circulars 262 and 278, 1944. Ask your commanding officer. Get yourself transferred out to a combat position. There's a poster of a woman dressed in uniform. She's got a patch that's blue on top with a white stripe and red on the bottom. It's a circular. She's the topographic draftsman, Army Ground Forces. And there's a statement says, "Women's place in war. The Army of the United States has 239 kinds of jobs for women. The Women's Army Corps." Many different pictures of Arkansans that I read about on the wall behind me. Private Edsel Malone, 2nd Battalion, Mortar Platoon, Major George S. Grant, Executive Officer, 3rd Battalion, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, Private First Class Isaac W. Wright, Company A, 1st Battalion, 18th Infantry Regiment. And it's right next to his Bronze Star Medal certificate. Private First Class Walter W. Jones, Company F, 2nd Battalion, 116th Infantry Regiment. Next to his Silver Star Medal, Tech 5th Grade Henry B. McAfee. He's Company C, 746th Tank Battalion, Independent, the Liberators. Next photo, his Gunner's Mate First Class, James Everett Atterbury, United States Coast Guard, 28th of June, 1920, killed in action on 6th of June, 1944. He's one of those that did not make it. PHM, on the next picture is PHM Albert James Antoine, U.S. Navy Corpsman, Landing Ship Tank, LST 351. There's a small plaque, D-Day 70th anniversary, honoring the 7 Arkansans who were part of the invasion. 5 did not survive the day. So 5 of the 7 that I just read did not make it through. Next room has a biplane. There's a Japanese flag of some kind with a lot of Japanese writing on it. There's no placard for that one. There's an American flag above it. The last flag flown on the ship PC 576 in 1945, taken down by Virgil Hughes. There's a photo commemorating the B-24 crew, 13th Air Force, 5th Bomb Group, 31st Bomb Squadron. Second Lieutenant Leslie O. Evans, he's the pilot. The First Lieutenant Harry A. Ragland, navigator. Second Lieutenant James E. Tate Jr., co-pilot. Second Lieutenant Aloysius Dummerat, bombardier. Ooh, I like that name, Aloysius. Sergeant James J. Hayes, engineer, upper gunner. Sergeant Donald Lassine, radio operator. Sergeant William F. Ryan, nose gunner. Corporal Anthony Molodowitz, Speary gunner. Corporal Herschel K. Hust, waist gunner. Corporal Charles R. Walter, tail gunner. Takes a crew. Work together. Take that your whole life. There's a case in this room. It has an example of the Japanese soldier. There's the Sun News Pictorial, Singapore. Danger grows as Japs press back defenders. There's a mannequin with an Imperial Japanese soldier's uniform. This is the standard uniform of the Japanese Imperial soldier. This uniform was worn by the Army, Navy, and Imperia equivalent of the Marines. This soldier is wearing the standard leather belt and cartridge cases. He's equipped with a Type 99 7.7 millimeter rifle with bayonet attached, as well as a grenade. Steeped in the deep tradition of Bushido, these soldiers were highly disciplined, motivated, and quite willing to die for the emperor and their country. To be captured or defeated on the battlefield for these soldiers was considered a dishonor to the emperor, their country, and their family, and was therefore not an option. They fought tenaciously with great courage and were regarded as a fierce enemy to the face. Now, I did have a discussion at lunch earlier with my father-in-law. We were discussing the bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the possible third bomb that would have been deployed to Tokyo. Was that the right call for Harry Truman? Well, that statement that I just read, that they would have kept fighting until the end, till the last, for honor and for the emperor. They would not have stopped fighting if not for those bombs. Yeah, was it the right call? Sadly, I believe it was. I think it saved more lives, but did kill a lot of innocent lives. I mean, to be sure. Stepping into the next room. Now, this is a big room. This one has jeeps and wagons with cannons and a lot of displays, big warheads, propellers. This looks like a video of the famous Damascus video incident. All right, we got another interesting character joining us. My name's Dan, KeysDAN. What's your name, sir, and what do you do?
I'm Jack Meadows. I've been a volunteer here for almost 18 years, ever since the doors opened. I'm a retired Air Force, and I really was one of the original Titan II crew members from 60 years ago.
We just watched a small video in the big room about the Damascus Titan disaster. I mean, this is the first time I've seen a video of it. I've heard a lot of podcasts about it, heard some radio shows, read a little bit about it. Of course, being in Arkansas, that's a big news from, what year was it?
1980.
1980. That's really not that long ago. And these were Titan, they're right in the thick of the Cold War, making preparations, making sure that America was safe from any enemies. And tell me, what was your position in the Titan II, and were you stationed here in Arkansas?
I was stationed here in Arkansas. I was a missile facilities technician. My job was, of course, to help launch a missile if it came to that. My job was taking care of all the facilities that kept the Titan running day in, day out.
That's the most famous story of that particular Titan. The wrench heard round the world, I guess, but maybe not really, right? It was kept silent for the most part, correct?
Yes.
This is a military facility, military secrets, I suppose, that, our defense. But you weren't the one that dropped the wrench, right?
No, I retired the year before that happened. Not that there was a connection there, but I just happened to retire. Did you launched our missile yet?
I don't think I have not launched a missile. This room has so many things to see. I think I'm going to go launch a missile. Hopefully not for real.
We'll do it.
Let's do it.
Of course, there were two keys in separate locations, but this is not where it's really up. Turn that key to the right and turn it loose and watch the screen.
Turning the key to the right. Hopefully this does not start an international incident.
I'm going to give you some more volume so you can appreciate it.
The Titan II, huge, powerful, and potentially hazardous.
365 days a year. Life on alert was often boring, sometimes intense, but always critical.
It's a video presentation of an actual launch of a Titan II missile. Tell me more, Jack Meadows.
4-man crew, 2 officers, 2 enlisted. That's me right there.
There's a photo of some very young, strapping young men. Meadows is on the first of 4 in the picture that he's holding there. Now, hopefully my wife can come around and take a picture of Mr. Meadows and his crew. He's wearing a members-only jacket. Are you the last member?
Close, because I just turned 86.
God bless you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. He's got his actual uniform right there. Meadows. Moving through, I mentioned that there was a big missile warhead, and there's it's called a re-entry Titan II cone on loan from the National Museum of the United States Air Force. The display is provided by the Association of Air Force Missilers in memory of the AAFM members, Captain Jonathan Bayless, Bob O. Bedrow, Major General Richard Bovary, Lieutenant Colonel Louis Grimnitz, Commanding Sergeant, CMSJT. I apologize, I'm not a military man. Raymond E. Kelsey, Brigadier General William G. King, Colonel Charles Lipscomb, David J. Morris, Master Sergeant John Elton Smith, Lieutenant Colonel Clyde H. Smith, Commanding Sergeant CMSJT Robert Schumacher. There's just so much to see visually to be able to try to do it any kind of justice on an audio media is just almost impossible. There's a display for Korea from 1950 to 1953. General Douglas MacArthur, a native Arkansan, graduated first in his West Point class, served in World War I, and was commandant at West Point. As commander of Allied forces in the Pacific in World War II, he accepted the Japanese surrender and then implemented democratic reforms in the post-war occupation of Japan. After North Korea invaded South Korea in 1950, he directed UN resistance forces. In a brilliant military maneuver, some isolated UN forces left Busan by sea and landed at Incheon, Inchon, and then proceeded to capture Seoul and cut off North Korean supply lines. With disaster thus averted, UN and South Korean forces engaged in bloody cold weather fighting with North Koreans and Chinese until a ceasefire truce was signed on July 27, 1953. MacArthur and President Truman disagreed on the conduct of the Korean War, and Truman fired MacArthur amid great controversy. General Arthur MacArthur and General Douglas MacArthur, the only father-son recipients of the Medal of Honor. A picture of General Douglas MacArthur, very commanding man. It's a 4-star general. So many displays to see here in the museum. There's a display dedicated to the Arkansas National Guard, Voodoo Medicine Man, a plaque that's pretty striking. It kind of commands the eye. There's a mannequin in a mock-up of an ejection type seat. I guess the actual kind of seat that a jet fighter pilot would be in. 154th Tactical Airlift Training Squadron. Commander, the veterans of World War II, England, Africa, Sicily, Italy, south of France. 2,125 combat sorties in Korea, Itazuki, Taiju. 4,223 combat sorties. The Pueblo Incident. I need to learn more about that. Itazuki, Osan, 2,946 sorties, 5,255 hours. Grenada, 2 sorties. Even though this military museum is located real close to the Little Rock Air Force Base, all of the armed forces are represented almost equally. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. There's quite a bit to see, and they've paid a lot of attention and really came up with these models that allow you to see what combat might have looked like. And never being in combat myself, it's awesome. I'm filled with much awe. Our soldiers had to live this way in order to do what they deemed fit, deemed right, to protect freedom. Yes, I wish there was no war. I hear you. I hear you out there. If we could put an end to all wars, that would be wonderful. But unfortunately, that's not the way of the world right now. There's an amazing replica of the Statue of Liberty wrapped in an American flag. I find my wife Raschel talking to Jack Meadows.
Got together and bought 6,500 acres. Gave it to the Defense Department. Said, here, build us an Air Force base.
Wow.
We always had a great base and community
That's incredible.
relations.
So the community were like, here.
That's right.
So you said it's in here, the video?
Yes.
We're going to have to watch it.
Help yourself. Have fun.
We haven't heard a lot from Delores. She's got a little anecdote. Go for it.
Lived at Pruitt, Arkansas, and lived in a house trailer. And my son and I had got up and painted the top of the trailer, and it was really shiny. And these fighter jets kept coming over treetop high and then dropping down on the Buffalo River and going up. So I called Jackson Air Force Base, and I said, what's going on? They said, we are using you as a target for bombing, and then we're going down below radar and going up the Buffalo River. I said, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Just catching up with Jerry Epps and Bobby Haynes, and they're shooting the breeze about what war stories and after war and Cold War stories. The Damascus incident, there's a whole video we watched recently.
The accident just shows how hard so many airmen worked for so long. Yeah. I mean, 25 years, one major accident. That's pretty good safety record.
The last 10 years, they still had them running at 25.
Right.
They shut them down after 25 years.
That's the most famous thing that I know about that part of the country.
What amazed me was that the cover that goes over there, when that thing blew up, they said that cover went how far? It was a good long ways. Weighed 750 tons. I guess it was designed to survive a nuclear attack. I don't know.
Well, the latest podcast I heard about it was that it wasn't the A team that was doing the job. It was like the B team, and there were teenagers, 19, 20 years old, that were in charge of this maintenance part of the Damascus missile, this Titan II.
I don't know what they were, and I wouldn't comment on it, but they had supervision with officers there that wasn't 18 and 20, I'll guarantee you.
The wrench that they were using was the wrong wrench at the time, but it's the wrench that they used to use years before. It was an old wrench that had been replaced, so they shouldn't have been using that wrench, but in their minds they were like, well, this is what we used to use 2 years ago, and I don't want to go all the way back up to the truck to get the right wrench, so let's just use this one. This is at the end of a 14-hour workday, and you're talking about taking more than an hour to take off a special suit they had to wear, go through 3 blast doors, go out. So it's not like it was going to be a 2-minute thing, but
went outside, opened the screen door and grabbed it, and it didn't happen.
Right. It's nearly every major accident is a series of unfortunate events that lead up to it.
That is correct.
That's true of nearly every aircraft crash, every missile incident, even car wrecks. A lot of times are just 3 or 4 things in a row that had to go wrong in that order to happen.
Most of it is at the end of a bottle.
Jerry Epps, I appreciate the invite to this military museum. My goodness, I got some editing to do, put this all together and make a nice little presentation. And hopefully we get some more people that show up. Bobby?
You can come back down here and we can, and you can get stuff you didn't talk about and put another issue, evident, new tape out on it.
part 2 coming up, and part 1's not even put together yet.
I was busy with some other guests, but let me show you a couple of things real quick, just in case you missed them.
Let's do a walk and talk.
We routinely do a Welcome Home Vietnam's event, Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans event. We had to skip it a few years because of COVID, but we try to have an event to say welcome home, give Vietnam veterans the welcome home they never got when they should have got it. A lot of Vietnam veterans have come over the years, and this huge map you see on the wall here is covered with signatures of Vietnam veterans. Many of them signed it, where they were in Vietnam during the war.
I've watched Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams from the Delta to the DMZ, and there's a map right there, clearly showing the DMZ and South Vietnam, Laos, Thailand as their relationship there, Cambodia.
You see the Ho Chi Minh Trail marked on there, which was actually a whole network of roads that the North Vietnamese used trucks to bring ammunition and supplies down to their insurgents in South Vietnam.
Amazing displays you have here. They're painstaking. I've never been in combat, thankfully, but to see how they lived while they were fighting for freedoms. I mean, I wish there was no war. I'm sure you do too. But it's inevitable and necessary at times. In this day, one day, hopefully, right? The human race will be no war.
Hopefully we'll get to a point where we can work out our differences without killing each other.
You being a Star Trek fan, you living the Star Trek life, so we can explore, we can take care of ourselves and then start to explore new worlds.
That would be ideal. Oh, hold on just a second here. What do we got?
Backing up a little bit.
Where is this?
Okay, this is fairly new, but my understanding is this is a chemical weapons disposal facility.
Oh, okay.
And I want to say it's at Pine Bluff, but I can't promise that. Pine Bluff has a major arsenal here, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, major arsenal.
Chemical disposal facility, Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Yes. So,
and then we read the placard and it says Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Jerry's very smart.
Yes, this is very new. But the United States had a huge chemical weapons arsenal during the Cold War, and you can't just throw that stuff in your local garbage dump. So this is a facility to destroy those in a safe way. I was going to show you, to me, something I think is very, very cool. In every movie where they have nuclear bombs, they take some keys. They'll have two people, and they both have to turn the key at the same time to launch the missiles.
Yeah, Jack maybe launched a missile earlier.
Well, in this little box right there, you will see two actual missile launch keys. So if there ever had been a nuclear war with Russia, those two keys would have launched a 9 megaton bomb towards Russia.
Amazing. Who did all these displays, or is it various people?
Lots of people over many years. This is a real nose cone. There was a 9 megaton bomb right there. Right there in that space, 9 megaton bomb pointed at Russia for many years, 25 years roughly.
Yeah, we're back at this gigantic warhead nose cone. And there's a plaque dedicated to it if you want to read it or talk about it. It's essentially the re-entry vehicle. So the bomb would have been right there in the middle, and this was a heat shield that would have protected the bomb as it went back through the atmosphere, like you see in the Apollo 13 movie where they're coming through and the fire on the outside. This would protect the bomb till it got back inside the atmosphere, and then the bomb would come out. And yeah, you wouldn't want that bomb to explode too early in the atmosphere. You want it to get to its target, get to its location, and then detonate.
The Air Force, or the military, had what they called their always never philosophy. You wanted your nuclear weapons to always work when you wanted them to, but to never accidentally go off. It's very difficult to have something that will never fail when you need it to work, but still maintain a level of safety. And it was a huge engineering problem that, and also dedicated people like Jack Meadows over here who spent many years making sure that these missiles always would work if they needed to, hoping they never would need to.
Yeah, he said he retired a year before the actual incident in Damascus. He said it was coincidental. He had nothing to do with it. Thank you so much, Jerry, man. Is there any pertinent information, any final thoughts about the military museum, or invite people to come out?
I would like to invite everyone to come out and see the Jacksonville Museum of Military History. There's lots of exhibits here covering the entirety of U.S. military history with a focus on Arkansas's contributions to America's military history.
What's the address? What's the phone number? Is there an email or a website?
jaxmilitarymuseum.org is our website. We're on Veterans Circle off of Main Street here in Jacksonville, Arkansas.
Very good. Thank you so much, Jerry Epps. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, party people. The Jacksonville Museum of Military History in Jacksonville, Arkansas. I encourage you to go take a trip. Learn a little bit more about the military. It's big thanks to Jerry Epps, Jack Meadows, my father-in-law, Bobby Haynes, my mother-in-law, Delores Haynes, and my lovely wife, Raschel Gilson, especially for taking the pictures. It's nice to have help from your friends and family. You can get by with little help from your friends. Wow. It's a good museum, but I wish we didn't have to have war so we could dedicate museums to war. And maybe, those resources could be better used in peacekeeping. I feel like if everybody had the resources that they needed, roof over their heads, food on the plate, money in their pocket, I think that would be, a step in the right direction to ending wars. We got to get together. Come on, let's get together. Quit your fighting, he says, as there's bombs exploding in the video in his background. If you were listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you really to check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDAN. Thank you so much, good people of the Jacksonville Museum of Military History. And my loyal listeners, please go visit if you have the means. If you're in the area, get down there. Check it out. It's wonderful. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.